Okay. Morning, everybody. Joanne Johnson, Executive Director for the Oconee County Chamber of Commerce. I am here today with the director. Say your title for me because I'm going to mess it up. It's a big title.
It's Deputy Chief of Staff for Congressman Duncan.
See, I haven't had enough coffee, and I said it all week getting ready for this, but I knew I was going to mess it up this morning.
It's
so
okay.
glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you're here, and I know that a lot of people are anticipating everything that you have to say. And this morning, we're talking about SBA loans and PPP and the EIDL loans, but we're also going to chat about the tornado and some things maybe that the governor is thinking, as well as the congressman. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. The congressman and I were up in Oconee County, specifically Seneca, on Monday, and did a tour with the governor's office. And Jeff actually sat, I call the congressman Jeff, so if anybody knows, it's Jeff Duncan. He sat in a car with the governor and spoke with the governor for quite a while. And basically the governor has a couple of things he can do, and he may be able to do both. Declared a disaster or an emergency, I believe. These are all state terms, but he can do maybe one or both. And then he has to send it to the president, but FEMA has to come in and do an assessment. And then when that's all done and the president looks at it and says, yeah, I'm going to sign off on it. And if he does, then, we're going to encourage the president to do that. Jeff's going to encourage the president to sign off on it because we saw the devastation there. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. And, our prayers are out there for the community. And Jeff was we both were just absolutely amazed at what happened in Oconee County, because you normally think of stuff like this happening in the flat plains of Kansas and Texas and Oklahoma. You don't think of it being in the mountains or the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Oconee County. So yeah. It was, Borg Warner, I saw parts of Borg Warner 2-3 miles away, and I've heard reports that there were pieces of it 20 miles away.
That's correct.
I've just never seen anything like it. And I had a call from Seneca just a few minutes ago. I wasn't able to take it because I was on another call, but I'm going to call him right after this. He's a friend. He lives up there. His house got destroyed. And so they're building back, I guess, but I guess they got to clean up first. And I think we're very fortunate that there was a loss of life, at least the one at this point, but I think we've been very fortunate that there weren't many, many, many more in Oconee County, because the devastation, the trees, some of the huge trees, was just terrible. So anything that we can do from a federal standpoint to get some assistance there, we're going to do it. It does take a little while. And the county and the city will be able to get reimbursement for some of the things they're doing, and possibly Blue Ridge and Duke as well, because I don't know how in the world they're going to get some of the power back up there anytime soon, although they are saying that it'll be up maybe within the next 24 hours. But I was driving over power lines, and it was pretty nervous. I mean, it was nerve-wracking. But people were working and power lines were down. I think the power must have been cut off somewhere, because otherwise they could have been shocked, I guess.
I'm not sure what our number is as far as power outage this morning, but I know last night it was still, I think, 11,000. And you're right. There are power lines everywhere. They're hanging, they're dangling, they're on the roads. And I actually went out, with the sheriff here, it kind of discouraging people a little bit from kind of going out just to check it out, just because he was afraid that maybe people might get in the way. And then it could become a hazard, a safety hazard for them. But it's everybody wants to see, and everybody wants to make sure that people are okay, and people can't help it. And more than that, their hearts are in the right place, and they just want to love on people. And, but I felt like I needed to go see it, and I did. And you're right, with Borg Warner, it's unbelievable. And there was one, I wanted to stop and take a picture of something, but I didn't, but it's going to stick in my mind. And there was a power pole with this gigantic piece of metal that was literally just wrapped around it like a U. I'm sure you saw it, but I thought the power behind that, the 160 behind that, and how it can just fold that metal like nothing. And you're right, We had the one fatality, which is horrible, and all of our thoughts and prayers go out to that family and friends. And there's a few people that we know they're in the hospital right now. But had Borg Warner, had third shift there, we would have been looking at 200 to 300 other lives. And it's hard to look at the situation and say that the Lord's hand wasn't in this, because it absolutely was, and the lives that were spared.
I guess that's one of the things it's been a positive with the COVID-19 outbreak. They were basically shut down. I think they had less than 30 people in there. A lot of those guys were maintenance guys that were working on the stuff, the equipment. And their phones, this is what we were told when we were up there, their phones blew up and they were like, what the heck is this? And they all went to a safe area like they were trained to do. And it probably saved several lives. The outside looks really, really bad. We didn't go on the inside, but from reports that the plant manager gave us, he was basically saying the inside is pretty much intact. There's some structural issues they got to deal with, and then they got to put the skin back on the outside. But there was a house right behind that was totally destroyed. And fortunately, we were told that the gentleman who lived there had been moved to a nursing facility, but there were 2 cars that were picked up and put in the basement. And, but there were no walls on this house. So the amount of force there is just incredible. And so anyway, our hearts and our prayers and thoughts and all that are going out to the community there. And we're going to do what we can to help from a federal standpoint.
Thank you. Good. Well, let's go ahead. Let's talk about some loans. I know everybody is interested in that. Can you kind of go over the 3 different loans that we were talking about?
Yeah. Well, there are 3 different COVID-19, I guess, specific type loans, and they're all run through the SBA. And to kind of give you an idea, the SBA in fiscal year 2019 did between $29 billion in loans. And that's a lot of money, but they have been tasked with approving and I guess overseeing $349 billion in loans. And those started coming online about 10 days ago. So 2 weeks from this Friday is when the guidance was sent down from SBA for PPP, the EIDL, and the EIDL Emergency Advance, 3 different loans. Came down 2 weeks ago, well, I guess tomorrow evening, Thursday evening, and banks started working on it, getting their ducks in a row, per se, on Friday. We heard a little bit of funding over the weekend, and in the last 10 days, 12 days, whatever, consider, counting the weekends, we are already, I got to put my glasses on, they've already approved and or funded 270 billion of the $349 billion. And if you look at that as a percentage, that's 77% of the PPP EIDL loan combination that's already been spent or approved. So today, I got 2 calls today, early this morning, saying that they got an email at 7 a.m. this morning from the SBA and their bank that said, you've been funded. One was for like 250,000 and one was like for 150,000. So we've been going through a burn rate of this for about 8% a day. So if you think about, there's about 20% left. So today and tomorrow, Friday morning, is probably this first round of $349 billion is probably going to be gone. So I was just talking to our chief of staff in DC a few minutes ago to get some updated numbers. And he basically said that we are going to have, that tomorrow the Senate's going to go back in a pro forma session, and they could do a unanimous consent type vote to add another $200 to $250 billion to this program, which I think is very, very, very much needed. Because there are people who still haven't got their money yet, or who haven't actually got through to get the loan. So they're going to try to add $200 to $250 more billion, and I think that might even be fluid. There might be a third part of the CARES Act to increase more money if needed down the road. But what's the really cool thing about this is South Carolina, of the $270 billion, South Carolina has already been approved and or funded for about $3 billion. So that's a lot of money coming into the economy, but it's not enough. And it's going to grow over the next few days for sure. The SBA is not funding the PPP type loans. So what's happening is the banks are doing that. And the banks were put in a horrible position because most of them don't do a lot of SBA loans. They do a few every year. So now they got, one bank I know of, the first 2 days had 139,000 applications. Now it's a big bank, but still 139,000, that's a lot to process, especially when you're downsized a little bit because of COVID. A lot of people are working from home and things like that. So it's going very well. It took a while, but it is $349 billion. So it's a new program and it took a while, but I think for the most part, it's going very well. To kind of give you an idea, the SBA came out and the first thing that was on their website about the EIDL Emergency Advance Loan, it said you'll get money within 3 business days and you'll get $10,000 if you apply and you're approved. Well, then they changed it a little bit because I think they saw where the money was going to run out quickly, and they said you will get up to $10,000. And then the caveat was you'll get $1,000 per employee. And so, and it said a few days. Well, the few days ended up being 16 days for a few people, and that I've heard that have gotten the money. Some still haven't got the money. But that is starting to come in, and it took about 10 days before the first person got it. And then over the last week, we've seen more and more people get some of that money. That's going to run out as well. That's part of the $349 billion. So all of that is going to run out, and hopefully they'll add more to it. And I think they will. Couple things I wanted to talk about. The EIDL loan, not the emergency advance, the third portion of this is actually funded by the SBA. Okay, so it is an SBA loan, probably take a little longer. It's not, the way I understand, forgivable, but it does have a very low rate and it does have a longer term. See, the SBA loan, if you don't do the proper procedures on it, which basically means what you have to do is you have to spend 75% of the PPP loan on payroll only, okay? And if you spend 75% on payroll, you can spend up to 25% on other things like mortgage, interest, rent, utility. But if you go over that 25%, a portion of that back. The good news is it's a 2-year loan and it's at 1%. It's not, I mean, it's basically a free money there anyway, but you don't want to have to pay it back if possible. So following the procedures, 75-25 is the best way to do it. My suggestion on anything that we talk about today is to do 2 things. First of all, talk to your financial advisor, your tax advisor specifically, about whether or not an SBA PPP loan, EIDL, or EIDL emergency grant, emergency advance is for you. And then also make sure that you talk to your banker to make sure that you're doing the right thing, that you're able to document how you're spending the money. Because the day you get the money, you basically have payroll and expenses for the next 8 weeks. So you've got to spend that. You got to bring your employees back to work. If you've laid them off between February 15th and April 26th, you got to bring them back. Whether they're working or not, you have to put them back on the payroll. So if you put them back on the payroll and you do the things you're supposed to do, 75% payroll, 25% on the other expenses, then that loan should be forgiven. 100%, no interest or anything.
What happens to the employees then? So they're on unemployment they come back for those 8 weeks, and then are they going to have to reapply for unemployment?
No, hopefully the economy is going to be back, running at some form at that point,
Okay.
and then we can, people be back getting paid again. Hopefully restaurants will be back open. We're hoping the governor opens some of that, and the president relaxes some of the rules across the country in areas and pockets that are not, really impacted by this as much as like New York City and Seattle and places like that. So we're hoping, some quick resolution to that, hopefully in the next few weeks. And, once that 8 weeks is exhausted, hopefully we're back at least, to a portion of where we can at least run our businesses again.
Right.
One thing I haven't spoken about is, what happens if you are, if you're a 1099 employee, or you are, your business started last year and you really don't have a payroll. What can you do? Well, you can apply for the EIDL emergency advance, but you'd get $1,000 if it's just you. It's not going to help a lot. You can also do the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP. That may or may not help a whole lot either, because you're not going to get a lot of money because you're not showing a lot of income. One thing you can do is, as of Friday, the self-employed and the 1099s, for the first time, I think, in history, are able to apply for unemployment. And I've got a document I sent you, but it was in a different form. It's in a PDF form, and I can send it, or Jordan Christian can send it. Jordan works for our office. She's kind of handling the unemployment. But it's a PDF document. It's about 14 pages, and it explains really well how people can get unemployment through the state. And there's two factors, at least two factors, and I'm not up on it like she is. But when it's all said and done, you're going to get between $600 and $900 a week and I think it may be for 8 weeks as well. You don't have to look for another job, which is a caveat to the unemployment. If you're laid off in a normal time, you're out there having to look for another job. And I don't believe that's part of the requirements now. So I think Jordan Christian in our office, I'll give her email address. It's Jordan, JORDAN .Christian, CHRISTIAN @mail.house.gov. And if I could put it on the screen, I would, but I don't know how to do that. So, but mine is rick.adkins @mail.house.gov. And if y'all send your information to Joanne, she can send us emails because she has our email address if you didn't get it written down. We'll be happy to answer those questions. That's what we're here for. So
I'm glad that you, I'm glad that you brought that up. And with the unemployment, what I was told, and I actually talked with unemployment about it the other day for sole proprietors is, and with Senator Alexander as well, the understanding that we have at this point, and you correct me where I'm wrong, is that you can apply for the unemployment and you may get, say, that $326 a week, or you may not, okay, which is at the state level. But if it gets kicked out, it should trigger that federal $600.
$600, correct.
So
yeah,
you're
you
looking
could get
between that, between $600 and $926 a week.
That's right. And it's kind of posing a problem for some small businesses who have laid off employees who make, $12, $15 an hour. That's between $400 and $600 a week. So you lay somebody off, and now, the Fed part kicks in along with the state part, and they're making $926 instead of $500 or $600. And Senator Scott and Senator Graham brought that point up, but it still made it into the bill, and it's unfortunate. But
I know people are hoping that essential workers may be considered to get maybe the $600 a week as well. Because you've got somebody out here who's $10 an hour who's considered essential, and that's all they're making. And maybe if they even get a kick at $2 an hour for hazard pay, something like that, it's still not the $926 a week. So do we have any hope? Do you know, could it be possible for essential workers to maybe begin to receive $600 as well?
think that's a business decision that has to be made by the company. I don't know if that's part of the unemployment or not. I do know that if your hours are reduced or your salary is reduced, uh, you can apply for unemployment and also get a portion of that to bring you back whole. Now, I don't know all the details on that. Jordan knows a lot more, so we can absolutely have her address that situation with you. Um, yeah, that I was just thinking about CNAs. They don't make $900 a week for the most part. So what's the reason for them to go back to work? With the exception of we need them. We need them a lot. I mean, this is a big deal for us. So we need those folks. We need them working. And one thing I also wanted to bring up, I'm looking at my notes over here, is if you are a small business and you have a mortgage on your business or you have a business loan and you want to pay your bills, but your revenue has dropped way off. And I'm seeing this in some family practices for doctors, dentists. I mean, they're virtually nothing going on in their offices. They own their building. They have an equipment loan or whatever. My suggestion is to talk to your banker. The FDIC has relaxed, the way I understand, they've relaxed some rules where they really didn't do that during the financial crisis back in '06 through '09 or '07 through '09. The banks don't want to foreclose. They don't want to take your equipment back. So the FDIC has relaxed some of the guidelines and allowed the banks to do what they call forbearance. And the forbearance is basically taking 3 months, 6 months of your payments. You don't have to pay that during this time and putting it on the back end. So let's say you get a 3-month forbearance, you get May, June, July 1. Right now you owe 10 years on your loan. If you made your payments through July, you would owe about 10 years minus 3 months. But if you don't, you're forbearing it. They know that. You've talked to them. You've signed an agreement. They'll add those 3 months on the backside, and basically you'll owe 10 years 1st of July. So you're just extending your loan for those months that you're forbeared or they've given forbearance, and that will help a lot of people on cash flow. And I know it's helped some small businesses I've talked to. We came up with that idea because I'd heard some banks said they were going to do some forbearance. I talked to some businesses. They didn't realize that. They talked to their lender, and their lender was like, absolutely, we don't want to take your business. We don't want to take your equipment. We don't take your building. You can do that. Same way with mortgages on your home. Talk to your lender. They'll do some forbearance as well. They don't want to take your home back. I'm also trying to think what else we've done. Oh, one thing today, by end of business today, 80 million Americans who had a direct deposit on file with the IRS from refunds should be getting their $1,200 per person, up to $500 per qualifying child, should be getting that today. So kind of excited about seeing that. I've already heard a couple people getting that money.
Yeah, they did go out this morning to a lot of people. There was a couple of questions that I had about that. Certain people have gotten the 1,200, but no credit for the children.
Well, that's the children issue is they've got to be 16 or younger, and they've got to be a dependent. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure. And it's also, there's some income restrictions there too. If they received only $1,200 from themselves and not $1,200 for their dependent, I would suggest them talking to their accountant to make sure there's not something else they have to do there. But yeah, I've got 3 kids and I'm not going to get a dime for them because they're all over 16. And they're in college. Well, one of them's out of college now, but the other 2 are in college. So I'm not going to get any money for that. So I'll have to check on that, and I can see.
Because I wondered if it's 2 different payments, maybe, because the people that were writing in about it or saying, I got the 1,200, nothing for the children, and they are under 18. They have legal custody of them, all of that. So I'm curious if it's supposed to come in 2 different payments.
It may. I'll check on that and send you a contact. Send you a link to that.
There was an article written in one of the local papers here recently about the stimulus checks, and they had said that creditors can dip in and take that stimulus money. And I thought, if I'm correct, that you have to have a judgment to be able to do that. Can people just willy-nilly just go grab it?
No, they can't. And judgments, I'll have to go back and look on that. But this is not a taxable event. And it's not your normal tax rebate or refund from your tax. So I think it's exempt from that, but I will have to check on that as well.
Because that would be heartbreaking for someone who's already in financial distress. And now you have all of these things. You've got the pandemic, you're out of work, now your house is halfway standing, you get this stimulus money, and all of a sudden somebody goes, let me just have part of that. So it's good to know that that's probably inaccurate. So
I don't think that's accurate. On normal tax returns, it's possible. If it's a tax lien or a judgment from a municipality or something like that, I believe some of that is you can go back. They can get that in advance, well, from your rebates. But I don't believe that's possible from for this. I don't. But I can't be for sure on that. But I will find out, and I will email you. And we have a lady in our office who's handling our IRS issues. So I'll make sure that I get the proper answer on that. What we've done in our office, and I meant to say this up front, is we put a district staff member along with a DC staff member who typically handles all of our legislative stuff. We've teamed them up together to work on a particular issue. Like Jordan's working on the unemployment stuff, and she's got someone up in DC who's working with her on that. And I believe that is, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's going to either be Merrimack or Will maybe on that. So, and I'm handling the SBA stuff along with Joshua, our legislative director. So there also was some questions at first about essential businesses. So we helped a bunch of businesses around the district to help with the governor's office to make sure they were considered essential businesses so they could stay open if the governor shut it down more so than he has. So I think we've been really, really good on that. Anything else or any other questions?
Just real quick, if we can go back over the loans we're talking about with the PPP, you said you can forego the interest on the mortgage obligations, and you're saying 25% of what you get can go toward the rent and things like that. For sole proprietors, people that maybe work out of their house, does that apply to their private mortgage as well?
It depends on how you write that off on your tax returns. The way I understand, like my office here is probably 400 square feet in my house. I could write that off as a percentage of if I wanted to on my mortgage. I don't, because I have a office, a real office at work. So I don't write this off, but I believe if you have 1,000 square foot house and 200 of it's an office, you can write off 20% of your mortgage. Now, going back to what you just said, the PPP, 75% of it's got to go to payroll, 25% can go towards other expenses. What I was talking about on the mortgages and stuff is totally opposite. I mean, totally not included in the PPP. That's an agreement between you and your bank on the forbearance. So, it's has nothing to do with the PPP. You can pay your mortgage with PPP or the mortgage interest as long as it doesn't exceed 25% of your loan, your PPP loan. Some people who are self-employed, again, who just started a business a year or so ago and not showing a lot of income, it may be to their advantage to go ahead and apply for unemployment.
Mhm.
And I hate to say that, but I think that might be one of the options that may be better. I mean, if you're showing $20,000 a year profit and income and you're self-employed at $1,600 a month, it equates to a little over $400 a week. If you can get 900 or even the 600, you're coming out better. And all you got to do is prove that you spent that, or you don't have to prove it on the unemployment. You just have to on the PPP. So it may be to your advantage to go ahead and take the unemployment. You may get $900 a week.
Yeah, between $600 and $900, and then you can also, at your recommendation, I believe you said apply for the EIDL and the PPP. You might get like 2,000, right?
Could.
That's each one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, you could on the EIDL emergency advance. That is a forgivable grant. Depends on how many employees you have. You could get, if you got one employee, you get 1,000. You get 12 employees, you get 10,000 until that money runs out. And I believe it's really close to running out right now. But fortunately, I think they're going to add more to it.
At which point, everyone gets off of this call and races directly to the website. So we, if it's going to run out, but now if it does run out, there's hope that they may put some more money into it, right?
Yeah, it's going to run out, and I got a feeling there's going to be a lot of political pressure. The issue is, and I don't want to get political on here or partisan. I am conservative Republican, but I don't want to go there really. But the issue is the Republicans want a clean bill. They want to say, we want to increase the PPP program, the CARES Act. We want to increase that part of the CARES Act by $250 billion. We don't want to add a bunch of stuff to it. Unfortunately, Speaker Pelosi and Minority Leader Schumer want to add a lot of fluff to it, things that are not germane to the PPP program. And they're holding it up. We could probably have a clean bill approved by the Senate tomorrow and probably the House on Friday through unanimous consent, or maybe the first of next week if they have to go back and vote. And the president would sign it that night and the money would be ready to go the next day. But if the speaker continues to push the envelope on having more and more non-germane issues put on this bill that are not PPP related or SBA related, then it's going to kick around for a while. It's going to be unfortunate for our people on Main Street. That's who needs the money most right now.
Mm-hmm. So in applying for the loans, do they go for all of this? They go to SBA.gov?
No, for the EIDL loans, or two, EIDL emergency assistance and the EIDL regular loan, they do go to SBA.gov. For the PPP program, you go to your bank.
Go to your bank. Okay.
Yep, you go to your bank. They handle it all. They write the promissory notes. They fund it, and then the SBA will fund them. And then once it's all forgiven, it's done. Any part that you're not forgiven for any reason is a 1% interest rate, and you got to pay it back over 2 years. But the interest is forgiven, I believe, for the first 6 months. So you don't have to make a payment or interest or anything in the first 6 months, regardless.
This is good stuff. I appreciate it so much.
Sure.
And I'm sure after this, we'll have more questions for you, and hopefully you'll be willing to come back in a little bit.
Absolutely.
Because, I've been telling everybody we have never experienced anything like this. We don't know really how to do this. And so we're looking to all of our leaders, such as yourself and the Congressman and everyone, just to show us how do we do this. And we appreciate all of the insight and the wisdom and the fact that you're available for questions too. And I appreciate that you gave everyone your information so they can contact you directly. And you guys know to get a hold of me at director@theconeychambersc.com. If you have questions for Rick or for anybody else, feel free to reach out to me. Any last things that you think we need to know?
I suggest that everyone talk to because we're not talking about the virus itself. We're talking about the financial side of it. Everyone talk to your financial advisor, your tax advisor, to determine if going to PPP, EIDL loan possible is the right way for you, or unemployment. is the right way for you, or just staying pat. I don't know. Every business has their own individual needs and things that happen in their business that may or may not be affected by this. So your accountant should be able to help you, and your banker. Those should be the two people you talk to on a regular basis when it comes to this.
Absolutely. I appreciate you so much. We appreciate everything that y'all are doing. We know that you're working tirelessly, and just know that we do appreciate it.
We love it. I love being busy, and just remember our prayers are with you guys up there, and I'm hoping I can get up there and help some friends out this week. It slows down a little bit here, and take my chainsaw up there and see if I can help some of my friends.
Amen. Sounds great. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. We'll talk to you soon.